This week, I'm finally tackling a project that I have been putting off for a long time. This has been a long time coming. So this week, it's finally happening. These two giant IKEA Billy bookcases. I have been meaning to do this for 2.5 years now, and I am not delaying this anymore. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Justin, and this week I am finally tackling a project that I have been putting off for 2.5 years now. A long time. This has been a long time coming. And it has literally just been staring at me in the face for about 2.5 years. So this week, it's finally happening. And that project is these two giant IKEA Billy bookcases behind me. I bought these when I first moved into the apartment because I have tall ceilings, and I have never had tall ceilings before. I think they're a little under 11 feet tall in here, and you just don't find that in a lot of places. It's one of the things that I fell in love with about this apartment. So I was like, I want to get tall bookcases to really elevate the room and make it look substantial. So I got IKEA bookcases because they were affordable, but I was like, I can, upcycle these. I can make them look like they're not IKEA anymore. I can do all these things to have it be more affordable, but make them look substantial. And so I bought these bookcases. I bought some expensive hardware that I put on these bookcases, and that's where I stopped. For about 2.5 years. And I've just been staring at it and been like, oh, I need to get to that project. So this week, I'm finally gonna get to that project. I want to elevate these a little bit. I want to make them look a little more like my style. I want them to look a little less IKEA. Basically, what I wanna do is I want to add headers to both of these. They're gonna have wall sconces on top because I want more lighting options in this room. Right now I have a single lamp that has lit this place, which is fine. I don't really need overhead lighting. There is no overhead lighting. I don't use overhead lighting, but I would like some options when it comes to lighting this room. And if I have those sconces up there, it's gonna give me more substantial lighting for the entire room. I want to add a little bit more of a decorative element to the top of this header, and then I'm gonna paint the whole thing to make it look cohesive. I have been meaning to do this for 2.5 years now, and I am not delaying this anymore. We are doing this right now. So let's just jump right in. The first thing I had to do was pick up the wood to create the structure of the header, as well as pick the trim that I wanted to wrap the bookcase in. To keep the cost down, I'm using square furring strips as well as 1x12 MDF to create this header. Including the trim, it cost a little less than $50 for each of these headers, so this was a pretty affordable project. Okay, so the math on this has been crazy complicated because nothing is like an exact number. Everything's like 1 under 3/4 of an inch or 1 over 30.5. So now that I got it, I think I can start cutting this box that I want to create for the interior, and then I can wrap it with the MDF. Now this part's fairly easy. I just created a cube using the measurements that I got for the header, and I subtracted about 3/4 of an inch on the sides that the MDF would be wrapped around. And let me just say, right angle clamps are a lifesaver for projects like this. All right, so running into an issue that I did not take into account, completely didn't even think about. My miter saw is only a 10-inch wide blade, and my boards here are a little under 12. I think they're 11.25, but it's a 1x12. So I cannot bevel cut these all the way across because my miter saw only bevels one way. If it beveled the other way, then I can just flip it over and try to match the bevel, and it does not do that. And I completely forgot about that. So I'm going to have to straight cut these boards and then just really hope and pray that I can do some wood filler and sand it down enough so that when I paint it, you're not going to see where board meets board, and hope that my measurements are perfectly accurate that I've been doing. There's no other solution right now. I'm not gonna go out and buy another giant saw right now. So this is the solution that we have. So, oh well, you live and you learn, and we're gonna keep moving forward. And before we move forward with any of the trim, always good to do a dry fit to make sure everything is measuring up and lining up perfectly. Okay, so I want right side to the top. Let me tell you about something I do not enjoy doing: cutting crown molding. It is such a puzzle to wrap your head around all those angles. I'm already so mad at myself for procrastinating for this long on this project because it is already changing the entire feel of the room. The room feels bigger, it feels way more substantial, and they're just sitting up there. I'm not anywhere near done yet, and I love the way it's coming out. I love the height. I'm really excited this project is going this well. Knock on wood, there's still a ton to go. I'm gonna stop for the day because I need to run and grab a couple more things from the store that I forgot. But we're gonna pick it up tomorrow morning, and we're on a roll. We're just gonna get this thing done. Okay, these are a lot heavier than I remember them to be, and I'm about to add more weight to them, so that's great. But they're over here. I have space to work now. I'm gonna pop the headers on, attach them, and then we're gonna caulk all the seams and putty all the holes, basically prep it for painting. I used my nail gun first to hold the header in place, and then used long wood screws to secure the header to the bookcase. Once the header was fully attached, I can then add the trim detail to hide that seam. All right, now that the header is on fully, it's not going anywhere, all the trim is in place, I need to caulk everything and I need to fill all the holes. I want to add an extra little security measure for this extension, this IKEA extension that I added. It's only secured on the front. That's how it was designed by IKEA. But now that it has a little bit of extra weight on top of it, I want to make sure this isn't going anywhere. So I'm going to add just a little bit more security on the back of this, just so that it's not going to go anywhere front-wise. I decided it's going to be a lot easier to paint them upright than it is going to be painting them on the ground because I don't have a ton of space here. So we're gonna flip this one around and we will attach it to the wall and then we can start prepping for paint. I started by caulking all of my seams, which is probably the most important part to make this look like one cohesive unit. I then used spackling to fill all the nail and screw holes. A trick I really like to hide the IKEA of it all is to use some spackling to hide all of those excess shelf holes you're not using. It's definitely a time-consuming process, but it's really worth it to help elevate this furniture. And the spackling's really easy to pop out if you change your mind about where you want your shelves in the future. I almost forgot one last detail. I picked up this really thin piece of trim here. It's just gonna go right where this extension meets the actual bookcase. I have a seam right here. I'm gonna hide that seam. It's also gonna bring a little bit of that detail, the ornateness from the top, just bring it down just a little bit so it's not just up there. Has a couple different purposes, but we're just gonna pop that on real quick, caulk it, and then we can finish sanding this thing and get it primed. And now that these bookcases are completely prepared for primer, the last thing I want to do is install the electrical boxes for those wall sconces we're adding at the top of the bookcase. Okay, it is finally painting day. I have been waiting for this. We're gonna start with this bin shellac-based primer. If you have painted IKEA furniture before, you know it's a laminate-based furniture, so you really have to do it properly. You have to use a proper primer, otherwise the paint won't stick. You will not get a good even coat. So we are going to use this primer on everything first, and then we can start the actual painting process. Now, I will say, doing a single coat of either primer or paint on these bookcases took forever. There are just so many parts to this bookcase. Both sides of the shelves, both sides of the doors. It took a while. But after I was sure I got a full coverage on that primer, I sanded a little bit more and got my first coat of paint on. Now, the paint color is something I thought about for a long time. I thought about going with a bolder color, something that would make these bookshelves really pop in the room. But since I lived with them as white for the past couple years, I really think I like them as a neutral color. That way I have more options to change up my decor or change up the colors in my living room as I see fit later on. And if I want to go with a bolder choice later on, I can always paint them again. After doing another light sanding with a really fine sandpaper, I moved on to my second coat. Also, the paint I ended up going with was called Painter's White by Behr, which has a slight gray undertone and ended up perfect in the space. That took forever, but the second coat is done, and I love the way these are looking. I think I'm actually good on the actual bookcase part. I might do a third coat on the doors, since those are going to be obviously touched the most. But other than that, I love the way this is coming out, so I'm going to let this sit overnight, really dry and cure, and then tomorrow we can put this whole thing together and see this project come to life. So somehow I was able to miraculously slide these bookcases over to their spot without having to lift them. But until they were fully secured into the wall, this was a slightly terrifying process. And I'm wiring these sconces the same way I wired my pendant lights in the bedroom. I'm just using a replacement lamp cord to turn these hardwired fixtures into plug-in fixtures. And both sconces will be plugged into the same outlet that's actually controlled by a light switch. I love this because it's a super easy hack to get some extra beautiful lighting in a room. The only thing left to do is hang the doors. And add that hardware back on. And this project is done. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please like it. Send me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. And don't forget to subscribe. There are plenty more projects to come. I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.